a terrible start, but Ron Haslam on the right of the picture, and that must be Eddie Lawson as well. Eddie Lawson is in the lead. Number 4, Eddie Lawson is in the lead.
But it's Bout van Dolmen, I think, who swept across his nose into the first corner there. Bout van Dolmen, the Dutch rain expert.
Bout van Dolmen in the lead, Eddie Lawson from California, and we watch to see if anybody goes down on these treacherous first few yards.
And Lawson back into the lead. He snuck inside Bout van Dolmen as they went down through the corner and sweeping left up through Yuxke. It's definitely Lawson already pulling away.
Number 4, Eddie Lawson. Well, who would have believed this? From Bout van Dolmen, that's no surprise, but Eddie Lawson, a Californian who doesn't go well in the rain, he's really fired up and ready to go.
And Raymond Roche nipped inside Didier de Radiguez there, so it's Roche in third place as we watch number 4, Eddie Lawson.
3 riders almost side by side battling for third place, but Eddie Lawson is the man out in front. Bout van Dolmen, that's Ron Haslam there in 5th or 6th spot. Ron Haslam on bike number 9.
Yes, a tremendous start from Lawson. Unbelievable that he can just pick the speed to go at right from the word go. And he's coming through the S's where all that water was lying. They're taking a wide line to avoid it.
Lawson in the lead, Bout van Dolmen in 2nd place, Raymond Roche 3rd. They're being very, very careful, very cagey. And Didier de Radigues looked to go on the inside line. Ron Haslam now back in 6th place, bike number 9. There in your picture, the Englishman, part of the Grand Prix team. He will take it this relatively easy, I'm sure, for the first few laps. Lawson leading, though.
As de Radiguez snicks into 3rd place, passing Raymond Roche.
Bout van Dolmen in 2nd place then. Lawson in the lead through the kink. You can see the water lying on the circuit. Really conditions terrible. At the end of the first lap, Eddie Lawson in the lead. Bout van Dolmen in 2nd place. Didier de Radigues from Belgium on bike number 17 is in the 3rd spot, and Raymond Roche, number 11, is in 4th position. De Radigues, we're trying to see where Barry Sheene is from our lap chart. He's in 13th place at the end of that first lap. Not as high as he would like, but plenty of time to go. 1 lap gone, 29 to go. So a long way for Barry Sheene to move up. He certainly won't be disappointed and won't be phased out by the weather conditions. Lawson in the lead, Bout van Dolmen in 2nd place. Didier Radigues peering through that spray. It really is very difficult to see where you're going.
Yes, Lawson's okay, he's got a clear view, but the spray that he's picking up is affecting the gentlemen behind him as they get closer. And de Radiguez gets through into 2nd place, trying to get past Bout van Dolmen. They're side by side.
Didier has the inside line, he'll hang on to 2nd place. Didier de Radigues, what a fine ride for this young Belgian. Bout van Dolmen, bike number 12, then Raymond Roche, and there is Ron Haslam now in 7th place.
He's been passed by Reinhold Roth and world champion, ex-world champion Franco Uncini.
Lawson in the lead. Raymond Roche back in 4th place behind Bout van Dolmen, and 2nd place man Didier de Radigues.
And de Radiguez closing up on Lawson now.
Well, Didier de Radigues deciding that he'll concentrate on the 500 class, and what a wonderful start it would be if he could win. And certainly it is amazing that Eddie Lawson, a Californian who has so little experience of riding in the rain, should be holding off men of the calibre of Bout van Dolmen and Raymond Roche. Absolutely astonishing.
And don't forget that Eddie Lawson is still doing nearly 180 miles an hour as he gets down to the end of the straight here. And he told me that even in the wet, he's still braking at the same place as he does in the dry.
There's the spray. You can see the terrible conditions here. Eddie Lawson in front, Didier de Radigues in 2nd place, and absolutely finesse required. And Didier de Radigues goes through on the inside. Didier decides, no, he's not. Lawson shuts the door, closes the gap, and the word from the lap scorers is that Chris Guy from England is in 9th place at the moment. And there's the twitch. You can see what happens when you wind the power on just a little bit too much. Barry Sheene now up into 10th place as we peer through the rain and spray to see Eddie Lawson leading Didier de Radigues out in front in this 500cc race. And Didier closes the gap as they go down the hill. Side by side, looking to go around the left or the right-hand side. He's on the inside line again, but Lawson takes a wider line, peels off across in front of him. And when de Radigues winds on the power, he looked for the opportunity to pass Lawson. It's still Bout van Dolmen in 3rd place. There's the leaders, though. Lawson with de Radigues in pillion.
And where Durettigs has the advantage over Lawson is that he can accelerate out of the corner a little easier. There goes Ron Haslam, number 9. Durettigs into the lead.
And Didier goes round the outside, a brave move by the Belgian. His father is a pilot with Sabina Airlines, and Didier showing that he can fly a few things around the Kyalami circuit today. Didier Durettigs out in front. Eddie Lawson now having to peer through the spray as the Chevalier Honda twitches. You can see it shaking its head.
And the Honda engine Chevalier, easy to accelerate because it has a 3-cylinder reed valve engine that gives him the flexibility to get the power on early, as we see Lawson ducking out of Durettigs' slipstream. The Yamaha faster in a straight line.
Durettigs still in command. This is the 4th lap. They've done 3 laps.
But the 4-cylinder Yamaha of Lawson's vicious on acceleration. You saw it snake there as he got the power on. He has to be very, very careful, as otherwise the back end will just slide away.
So, Durettigs, the Belgian, out in front, snaking his way up that hill. Didier Durettigs, bike number 17, leading number 4, Eddie Lawson. And again, you can... Oh, and another twitch there. We don't have to tell you how slippery the Kyalami circuit is at the moment.
And those twitches appearing to come as the riders go across rivers of water running across the track. No way that the tyre can cut through that amount of water and still give the power onto the road.
Fastest lap so far, Eddie Lawson, 1 minute 48 seconds, compared with a lap record of 1 minute 26.4. So you can see the difference that this terrible weather is making to the performance, and those front 2 men pulling away. It looks like we lost Bout van Dolmen there for a moment, Peter.
Yes, I didn't see him in that shot, but Durettigs riding absolutely superbly.
So there's the front 2 men go through. That's Raymond Roche. We look now to see if there. Bout van Dolmen is there in 4th place. Was, because Franco Uncini goes through, and Ron Haslam still there in 7th place on bike number 9. Barry Sheene there. He's in 9th position, and we think that Chris Sky, the English privateer, is 10th at the moment.
And another privateer just in front of Barry Sheene there. That was Massimo Broccoli, but it's Durettigs, number 17, who leads Lawson, number 4, through the kink and down the straight to start another lap.
They'll have completed 4 laps this time. That's another 26 to go. And really, the thought of another 26 laps in weather like this would deter any soul. But these men are professional. They're the best in the world. And apparently already we've got some complaints being made to the clerk of the course about the weather. It is possible for the clerk of the course to stop the race early. Conditions are not good. The problem, of course, Peter, is the amount of water on the track, not the visibility.
No, if the water gets too deep, the machines become completely uncontrollable. And you can see Eddie Lawson hardly accelerating at all there as he crosses the very deep puddles.
And we peer through the mist. That is number 4, Eddie Lawson. Didier Durettigs having gone through already. This is the 2nd place man. 27-year-old Lawson, now the number 1 rider with Yamaha with the retirement of Kenny Roberts.
And the most dangerous thing would be actually as they come through the kinks past the start and finish. As I say, they're still doing, you know, well nigh on 180 miles an hour, at least 160, and at that point the motorcycle can just rise up on top of the water, go completely out of control, and a crash at that speed, of course, we just daren't contemplate.
Certainly not. Didier Durettigs, number 17, out in front. Eddie Lawson, number 4. And you can see the gap that these men have pulled on the rest of the field. There's Raymond Roche, number 11, in 3rd place, number 10, Franco Uncini. Ron Haslam on bike number 9 is 5th. Then Bout van Dolmen, who's dropped back now. That is a surprise. Bout likes the rain. I'm surprised that he's dropping back.
Yes, he might have a machine problem. With so much water about, there's every chance that water has got into the electrics, causing a misfire.
Franco Uncini in the picture. He's battling with Raymond Roche for 3rd place, and Ron Haslam now coming into contention. And certainly Ron, who finished 3rd here last year, Ron Haslam, you could see the bikes twitch. They really must be very frightening projectiles to ride in these conditions. 5 laps completed, 5 laps gone, another 25 to go.
And as we watch Raymond Roche peeling gingerly through the right-hander, you can see that he's not accomplishing anything like the angle of lean that he would be in the dry. And the back and front sliding there as he goes across the wet patches.
And Roche beginning to stretch an advantage over Franco Uncini, beginning to leave Uncini behind. Wait now to see whether Ron Haslam is closing that gap. up on Roche. Roche beginning to get the feel of the wet track, and again we peer through the mist and the rain to see number 17. No, in fact, we see number 11, Raymond Roche, there in third spot.
And the visibility isn't as bad as it appears there. I mean, we're seeing through a camera lens. The rider has a better view than that, as long as his visor hasn't been misted up, as I explained earlier. They try and keep their breath separate from the visor.
So, number 11, Raymond Roche, the Frenchman. And at the end of lap 5, Didier Deradigues on the Chevalier Honda leading from Eddie Lawson, Raymond Roche, Franco Mancini, Ron Haslam and Reinhard Roth. And Roche, a former endurance man of considerable skill and talent.
And of course that gives him an advantage in the wet. Very often 24-hour races run across wet track, so he knows what he's doing there and making the best use of his experience.
Roche beginning to close a little bit on Eddie Lawson, perhaps, as Ron Haslam overtakes Franco Mancini, who looks over his wrong shoulder, and side by side, and Haslam, I think, will have the line. Ron, oh dear, you could see the bike snake, and Haslam and Mancini battling wheel to wheel on conditions that can only be described as diabolical.
And I saw Franco Mancini stick his right leg out there. That may well be to indicate to his pit that he will be coming in next lap.
Well, as we've said before, some of the teams have already made protests to the race organisers that conditions are bad enough to justify stopping the race, but no signs yet of that happening. A little earlier today, in fact, the organisers did ask the FIM jury to consider postponing the race for 24 hours, and that was thrown out of court. And it would be fairly ironic, and that, I think, was either Lawson or Ferrari that we caught a glimpse of going into the pits. We'll let you know a little bit later.
It's definitely Virginio Ferrari pulled into the pits on the Marlboro Yamaha, so he is either going to have some work done on his bike or he's out there. We see him, number 5, coming to a halt in front of his pit.
And there behind him, the man without the peak, well, it's difficult, just coming around to the front to the left of the picture, Giacomo Agostini, the team manager of this 500 Yamaha squad. Barry Sheene now up into 6th place, and Sergio Pellandini, who had a terrible start, is now up into 10th place.
And just making a guess, they're looking at trying to go for the carburetors. It could be that he had throttle slides sticking open there. That's something that does happen in wet weather. And
of course, the last thing you want with conditions as bad as this is to go into a corner and find that when you turn the throttle to slow you down, it's still flat open, Peter.
Exactly. You can't afford to take any chances as we go back to the race with Franco Mancini chasing Ron Haslam, and there's Barry Sheene.
Barry Sheene climbing up. He was 6th. He now must be in 5th position, and the man ahead of him, Franco Mancini, in 4th place, is all ready to be overtaken. And Sheene really trying. You can see that Suzuki just twitching. They come over the brow of the hill, and Barry Sheene overtakes Franco Mancini. Barry Sheene now is in 4th position. 5th position, my apologies, behind Ron Haslam, who is 4th. So Barry Sheene 5th now.
And he's well into his stride. Look at him riding superbly. I mean, nobody is leaning the bike over further than that in these conditions.
Well, remember, of course, that Barry Sheene was just a fraction away from death at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone when he hit another machine that was lying in the track at the British Grand Prix in 1982. He bounced back to health in a remarkable fashion, made his comeback here at Kyalami just 12 months ago, and honestly, he's riding as well as ever today.
Yes, absolutely superbly. Every time he goes into the corner, he has to judge the braking absolutely perfectly, because there's no chance of getting it back if it begins to slide. It will be all over. And coming down now to Clubhouse, we see him lean over, off the brakes early, gently on the throttle. Again, he just can't afford to apply too much power, getting the bike upright before he applies the full power, and then easing the brakes again as he goes into the S's.
And this is the man who had something like 28 or 29 nuts and bolts to screw his legs together. Really, he doesn't want to fall over, and we wouldn't want to wish him to fall over. But this is double bravery of the highest order.
Certainly not the conditions for the faint-hearted, as a mistake is just so easy to make. But Barry using every ounce of his experience.
Barry Sheene then in 5th place at the moment in this wet and soggy South African Grand Prix. Looks over his shoulder, winds on the power of the Suzuki.
And Ron Haslam is half the length of the Kyle Army straight away from him. So Barry's got a lot to do to catch his fellow Briton in front.
Barry Sheene, 33 years of age, of course, twice a former 500cc world champion. And this excellent ride must also give some credit to the two small British firms who've helped him get the bike ready. Harris Engineering, who built a new frame for him, and of course Jim Wells, who's helped with the engine preparation.
Yes, the Harris frame, and we're back to the leaders now. We see Eddie Lawson has got past Didier de Rodriguez.
Lawson back in command then, going past the tail enders. Didier de Rodriguez in pursuit, and as you can see, they're already passing slower men. They've lapped them in just 7 laps. That is 8 laps. That is absolutely remarkable, and it just shows how many more problems lie in store.
As Roche and Haslam are both closing up on the leaders as well. This is going to be fantastic. Lawson into the lead, de Rodriguez second, and in your picture, coming into picture now, 11 Raymond Roche and 9 Ron Haslam.
All 4 men then, almost together. We could have a 4-man dice, and really these conditions are not the sort of thing you expect to see a 4-man dice for the lead. Eddie Lawson, number 4, the man out in command at the moment, but breathing down his head. Oh, and a heart-stopping moment for Lawson. He'd almost gone then.
And of course, what Lawson is relying on now is his vast experience as a dirt track racer. That's where he started in the States, riding big 750cc motorcycles on the dirt, sliding at every turn.
And here they come. Didier Rodriguez, you saw him tear off one of his pull-off visors so that you can see a little bit. There's Ron Haslam, number 9. They've all got the wick wound up 175 miles an hour as they rush down the straight into Crowthorne. Eddie Lawson, number 4, in the lead, being pursued by Didier de Rodriguez on bike number 17, Raymond Roche on bike number 11, and Britain's Ron Haslam on bike number 9.
And de Rodriguez may have had a big fright there, because suddenly he's dropped back and Lawson's gone past. Roche is closing.
Well, I think you're being a bit kind to pick on Didier. I suspect that every time round every corner, these men are having big frights, Peter.
Yes, yeah, it's a worrying time for all of them as they try and pick their way through the murk. And de Rodriguez coming under severe pressure, but Ron Haslam closing up on both Roche and de Rodriguez.
And here's Franco Uncini, the 1982 world champion, who was 3rd fastest in practice. Obviously something wrong, or maybe that he just isn't happy, doesn't want to fall off again. And I think we can see from that really it's more that Franco's had enough rather than something wrong with the bike.
Yes, he lost interest, didn't he? You could see him sitting up coming down the straight, and one can hardly blame him. It's a good comeback ride, but the mechanics are actually looking into the fairing, taking something off, so maybe a mechanical problem.
Well, perhaps we're being unkind to Uncini. There is a lot of certain rapid action, mechanics rushing out with tools. Meantime, Eddie Lawson, Didier de Rodriguez, and Ron Haslam is 3rd. Ron Haslam is 3rd, but only for a moment, because Raymond Roche nips back ahead of him. Well, what a brave man this Frenchman is. You can see the bike just weaving. It's not in a straight line at any given moment. Lawson, 20 laps left. We're 1/3 distance into this race, and Roche decides that having passed Haslam, that he can go into 2nd place, and Haslam is going to pass Didier as well, I think. No, he's not. He has to keep back in 4th spot. Raymond Roche leapt there from 4th to 3rd and from 3rd to 2nd, and Ron goes round the outside. Oh dear, dear, dear. Raymond Roche in 2nd place, Didier Rodriguez 3rd, and Ron Haslam in 4th place, and the race leader just about 150 yards. Haslam goes through. Didier de Rodriguez now back in 4th place. Lawson out in front, and Ron Haslam gets down behind the screen. He's working hard there. Roche is 2nd, Haslam is 3rd, and really it's a place where you don't want to get too excited. Oh, and you could see the back end of Roche, and Haslam seizes the opportunity, but Roche recovers well, tried to fight back into 2nd place. And certainly, if Ron wanted to know how slippy it was out there, Raymond Roche showed it to him.
Yes, but brilliantly, he kept his head and went past him. I mean, what do you do if you've seen the man in front of you slide wildly and you know you're going faster than he is?
I think you get off the bike and go home, Peter. That's what I'd do, but I'm not out there, fortunately. These are the men who are out there. Ron Haslam in 2nd place, Raymond Roche, number 11 there, in 3rd spot, and Didier Rodriguez, number 17, in 4th position.
as Ron Haslam laps Brett Hudson, the South African, in his first Grand Prix. So that's Haslam in second place, putting Hudson a lap behind.
And you can see the thing, and Hudson being overtaken now by Raymond Roche, and Didier Rodrigues being dropped back. That is the race leader. Behind him is number 9, Ron Haslam. Then comes Raymond Roche and Didier de Rodrigues, 4, 9, 11 and 17. That's the race order. Ignore number 25, that's Brett Steele. He's a lap down. And yellow flags were out, whether that was Haslam.
Somebody went down there, but we need a wider shot to find out who it was.
Well, the yellow flags are being waved.
And it's Haslam.
It is.
Haslam's out of the race. The bike too badly damaged to continue.
Well, that's bad luck indeed for Ron Haslam, lying second, and we're going to see the moment. Whoa, there he goes. The bike end over end. Ron Haslam on his feet. Well, bad luck indeed for Ron, going so well, but we've seen how slippery it is. Eddie Lawson in
Ron
the lead.
Haslam very lucky there, because that corner where he crashed Crowthorne, they've only just moved all the banks back, given them much more runoff area, and that's why he escaped unhurt.
And there's Ron Haslam. Okay, and there talking to him is Chris Guy, I think. Maybe not, perhaps that was just my imagination. No, in fact it was Ron Haslam then out of the race, and perhaps we shall know where Chris Guy is still running. Chris Guy in 12th place at the moment. So I thought I caught a glimpse of the blonde hair of Chris Guy. That is number 11, Raymond Roche. Now fairly firmly secured in second place. He's had a big mighty twitch himself. He's seen Ron Haslam go down on the deck, and really Raymond now has got to decide what he wants to do. Eddie Lawson in the lead. This man, number 17, Didier de Rodrigues, is in third spot.
And of course Raymond Roche really has two decisions to make. One, whether he wants to win the race himself, and the other, he's been given a works engine just for this event by Honda. He obviously has to do the best for the people providing him with the engine and beat their main opposition, Eddie Lawson.
So double pressure on the second place man, but this is third place man, Didier de Rodrigues, and he too has got well pleased to be doing so well. Barry Sheene, of course, let's not forget him. He's now in fourth place, now that Ron Haslam has taken a tumble and is out of contention. So Barry Sheene in fourth place, and the way Sheene was going, I really wouldn't like to count him out of the first three place.
Certainly not. There's still a good few laps to go, and in these conditions Barry can peg them back with every turn.
There is Didier de Rodrigues. He's in third place on the Chevalier Honda. And Didier looking very stylish indeed. As I said before, he dropped the 250 class. I know he wanted to be 250 world champion, but finally dropped the 250 class. And at the end of 11 laps, that's the order. Eddie Lawson leading from Raymond Roche. Didier de Rodrigues on bike number 17 is third. Barry Sheene is fourth. Sergio Palandini, who was last away, is fifth. And Wout van Dolman, who's a good man in the rain at any given time, he's in sixth place.
Honda engine.
What are the differences between the Chevalier Honda and the standard one, Peter?
Well, it has, although it uses the engine, nothing else comes from Honda. Alain Chevalier, the engineer, winds his own tubes in high carbon steel around the engine and makes his own cycle parts.
The positions then at the end of the 20th lap: Lawson the leader, Roche second place, Didier de Rodrigues in third spot, just behind him Barry Sheene, then Sergio Palandini, who was last away, he's up into fifth place, and Massimo Broccoli, who will be delighted with that, is in sixth place on his privately owned Honda. Chris Guy at the moment is in ninth place, and that's good news for the British privateer, who had to spend so much money getting ready to go racing and to come here at Kyalami that everyone jokingly says that his bank manager's riding pillion with him.
But de Rodrigues seemingly able to pull away from Sheene slightly here as he powers his way through third piece.
De Rodrigues then winding up the wick. Barry Sheene at the moment settling for fourth place, but we shall be able to see in the closing couple of laps. And Sheene either offline He looked as though he made a mistake. I don't think he was going to stop. I think Barry Sheene came very close to falling off then, Peter.
Yes, he may have locked up the front brake under braking there and just had to straighten up while he regained control and have another go at the corner.
Well, a heart-stopping moment for Barry Sheene and his fans, and that means that Didier de Rodrigues is able to stretch the advantage just a little bit more. Didier de Rodrigues on bike number 17 is in third place. Barry Sheene in fourth position.
And yes, you can see he has dropped back a little, but Barry's not the sort of man to be put off by a minor incident like that. And I'm sure he'll... Oh, and the Chevalier weaving wildly there, number 17, de Rodrigues getting all out of shape. Sheene head down again, fully determined to make up the lost ground.
So the leaders with 8 laps left to go out of this 30-lap race. The pattern of the race established itself. Eddie Lawson, a remarkable ride for a Californian who has so little experience of rain out in front. Raymond Roche, the French privateer, who'd been given a factory engine to do his bit, lying a good second. This man, Didier de Rodrigues, in third position, his best ever 500cc Grand Prix ride, and a fine return to form for Barry Sheene on the Suzuki GB machine. There's the race leader, Eddie Lawson, climbing over to the left-hand side of the bike, and masterful performance from Lawson. Peter, you were saying before his dirt track experience has stood him in good stead, and I think that's true.
Yes, on the American dirt tracks, they race on half-mile and mile ovals, just on compacted dirt, and they're all left-hand corners. The bikes must be slid in speedway style through the turns, but they're 750cc machines, generating nearly as much power as these Grand Prix races. So Lawson has all the experience of how to slide a motorcycle and yet try and get that 130, 140 brake horsepower onto the track.
A fine line indeed between sliding and falling off and sliding and staying in control. There is a classic example of Eddie Lawson drifting that Yamaha on a wet and slippery surface, everything under control. 7 laps to go now by the race leader. Raymond Roche waves. I'm sure that's to indicate he's seen the signal. He knows the countdown is on. He knows that he's really expected to beat this man. Freddie Spencer, not a starter. Spencer injured himself in practice, out of the race, watching this in his hotel room here at Kyalami, and I'm sure he'll be watching this with fascination. Really, he'll be wishing Roche can beat him, because he doesn't want to give Eddie Lawson a 15-point advantage at the start of the season, Peter.
He certainly doesn't. We may be begging the question a little bit, but are we watching the future world champion here? Only the first race of the season, but he's showing such determination at overcoming the odds, doing what none of us expected him to do, and he looks the winner of the race, and that is the sort of thing that he is required to do if he's to rack up enough points to beat Spencer.
Well, the timekeepers up here in the commentary box suggest to us that Didier de Rodrigues, in fact, is closing on Raymond Roche. So whether we're in for a bit of a grandstand finish, we shall just have to wait and see. That's Lawson, the race leader. That is Raymond Roche, number 11, in second place. The gap is 12 seconds between Roche and Didier de Rodrigues, and is stretching a little bit between de Rodrigues and Barry Sheene.
And of course, a lot of this racing in these conditions is psychological, apart from the fact that you feel the bike sliding. As the clouds drifting away and the circuit is drying a little, it's at some point the rider decides, yep, well, the circuit is dry now, I'm going to go quicker. And that psychological switch in the brain may have been made by Didier de Rodrigues, and he's pulling away from Sheene and catching up to Roche.
Raymond Roche through the kink then. 6 laps to go for both him and Eddie Lawson. The first 2 men are out, 6 laps to go.
And there's de Rodrigues, number 17, still in third place. As we switch now down to watch Raymond Roche come out of Crowthorne and down the fast right-hand sweep through Barbecue.
So you can see the gap now between Roche in second place and de Rodrigues in third spot. Roche into Crowthorne as de Rodrigues was just cresting the hill near the pits. Not a lot of ground, and certainly with 6 laps to go, Roche can't feel overconfident of hanging on to second place. But the moment, of course, all his thoughts are on catching that man ahead of him. That's why Honda gave him a factory engine from this race. They gave him one of the spare engines that Ron Haslam had been issued, and Roche certainly doing everything that's been asked of him. He can see Lawson ahead of him, and that's what he wants psychologically. It's so good to see the man you're chasing.
Yes, that means that you know what you've got to do. At every turn, you can just try and break that yard later, and that's what makes a difference.
Raymond Roche then, in second place. The bike once again weaving, twisting, sliding on this wet Kyalami circuit. And Roche trying everything he knows to close on Lawson. That's the gap again. Lawson and Roche.
And the question we must wonder is, as I mentioned, the Dunlop tyres on Lawson's machine are experimental. Roche is running on Michelin's, the well-known tyre. They know that it'll last a distance. And there might be a slight worry in the Yamaha camp not having run a full race distance on these new tyres before.
5 laps to go for this man, Raymond Roche, to catch the race leader. This man, in fact, Raymond Roche, to catch the race leader, Eddie Lawson. And it's been a testimony to the riders' bravery, skill and judgment, and the machine preparation of the leading runners. It's been an extraordinary Grand Prix, not the ideal conditions by any stretch of imagination, but all credit to Lawson, Roche, Derrida and Barry Sheene, who've made it a fascinating battle.
Yes, and of course, if we think back to the start, remember seeing Raymond Roche's machine being worked on at the very last second as he got water in the electrics on the warm-up lap. So that little spray of dispellant sealant obviously worked. It's run in the rain now for almost the entire race distance.
Raymond Roche then, something like 4 and a bit laps to go. Through the S's, still in the relentless pursuit of Eddie Lawson. Lawson, of course, can't judge how quick he can go. He's set himself a nice pattern, a nice pace. He'll want to stick at that. This man, though, in second place, can see Lawson ahead of him. He's got the incentive, as Peter was saying, of just braking that little bit later, trying to get closer and closer and closer. But that can be a recipe for disaster.
Yes, of course, that was presumably as what Ron Haslam was trying to do, and he just overstepped the mark fractionally, and Raymond Roche is weighing up whether he can afford to make a similar sort of mistake. Obviously, he can't.
That's the gap then, with 4 laps to go. The positions at the end of the 25th lap. Lawson in the lead, Roche second, Derrida third, Barry Sheene fourth, Sergio Palandini fifth, and Massimo Broccoli in 6th place.
It's still soaking wet around that part of the course as Lawson goes through, flicking the Yamaha left up the fast Yuxke sweep.
And Lawson closing up on Bout van Dolmen, and really, I think many people thought it would be the other way round in this race. I think most people thought that Bout van Dolmen, who knows wet racing, who knows the conditions so well, would perhaps lap Eddie Lawson. Not so. Lawson, number 4, the race leader, riding a superb race, just closing up on the Dutchman to go 1 lap ahead of him. Lawson through the S's. On a dry day, that knee would be skimming and rubbing the tarmac. It's just 4 or 5 inches away, so Lawson not on the limit as far as a dry day goes, but definitely on the limit as far as conditions go today.
The bike all out of shape as he tries to get the power on as early as possible, the back wheels sliding wildly. And there's Sheene right behind de Radiguez now.
And this is the battle for 3rd place, and either Didier Derrida has gone to sleep, or Barry Sheene has suddenly got his 2nd wind, because we've got a race on our hands again. The next time round, it'll be 3 laps to go.
And Sheene right in de Radiguez's slipstream there.
And the bike's just twisting. You remember we saw Sheene make that mistake, nearly come to grief, and they've got 3 laps left to sort out this battle. Didier and Barry going at it, hammer and tongs, the Belgian boy on bike number 17, ahead of the former 500cc world champion from Britain, Barry Sheene, battling away for 3rd spot.
I think you were right, Chris, in suggesting that Barry was just sort of waiting to the end of the race. He will now surely pick his moment to pass to Rodriguez, but not too soon, not to show the young Belgian just how fast he can go.
And Sheen again just shadow boxing, as it were, right at the back of de Rodriguez, poised to make his moment when he's ready to, looking for the gap, looking for the mistake, or possibly looking for the section of the circuit that he feels that he is quicker than the Belgian.
And of course, something in the back of Barry's mind will be telling him that de Rodriguez, being a youngster, might be inclined to overstep the mark, and Barry doesn't want to pass him too early and have Didier make some sort of mistake that could possibly bring them both down.
Well, that's a consideration that Sheen has already worked out, I'm sure, a very wily campaigner. And what a remarkable start to the ground. And Sheen goes to the inside line. There was the moment he was waiting for, and it was almost as if Barry knew exactly what he was going to do, and do it he did, if I may say so. And Sheen then out ahead of de Rodriguez into third place. 2 laps to go for the leaders. And Sheen, you can see the bike twitching. De Rodriguez won't take this line down. De Rodriguez did well here at Kyalami last year in the 250 race. 2 laps to go then in this scrap for third spot, as the leaders catch up again on the Greek Papandreou.
And Sheen trying to get away from de Rodriguez to make a clean break of it. He's put a few yards in front of him already as he dives past the Greek into the tricky downhill barbecue bend. And he's put about 10 bikes lengths between him and de Rodriguez, sweeping up through Yuxke, now at about 120 miles an hour on the run into Sunset.
Well, de Rodriguez won't have given up the scrap, and as Sheen passes Klaus Klein, laps him, de Rodriguez has to go the wide way round, bend the bike over just a little bit more. And I think we're just possibly asking a little too much for Sheen to catch Roche in the closing stages. Not really a possibility. Sheen through the S's, Didier still there. And Didier, I'm sure, will be very disappointed if he doesn't make the top 3. He's ridden so well. Sheen throws off another tear off Pfizer, trying to clear his vision for this final lap and a half.
Sheen riding brilliantly. Van Dolman moves over to let him past.
And Van Dolman pulls in behind Sheen, because I'm sure he's not really sure whether Didier de Rodriguez is in the hunt. There's Eddie Lawson, though, the race leader. He's on his last lap. Just one more circuit round the Kyalami track, and Eddie Lawson will have picked up 15 points in the opening round of the World Championship. And I cannot emphasise emphatically enough how few people here, other than perhaps Eddie Lawson himself, who believed that this man would not be winning this race when conditions were as bad as they were when it started, and as bad as they have been throughout the race. A remarkable ride from the Californian. He started the season well in Daytona. He finished 4th, but that was after stopping to change the rear tyre twice. And that was a magnificent performance in view of that stoppage. And Lawson, who didn't look that good in practice, has either found something special when it comes to race day, or perhaps was fooling us all. Lawson then through the S's for the very last time. Lawson can afford to take it easy now. He's well clear of Raymond Roche. Just the last bit. And Lawson isn't taking it easy. I withdraw my words. The bike, again, weaving its way through, the front wheel wagging. He's going over the line now. The checkered flag goes out, and Eddie Lawson has won. And what have I said? Sheen can't catch Roche. What am I talking about? He's almost there. Raymond Roche almost caught napping, but Roche finishes second. And what a tremendous ride from Barry Sheen, who almost had another lap, and it could well have been a different story. Eddie Lawson, the winner on the the factory Yamaha. He's happy, he's delighted. Raymond Roche, there's Lawson. Raymond Roche finishes second. He did almost all that Honda could ask for him. I'm sure Honda would have liked him to win, but second was fine, but almost caught napping on the line by Barry Sheene. Barry Sheene, tremendous ride, a wonderful start. The final positions then in the South African 500cc Grand Prix. Eddie Lawson on the Yamaha, the winner. Raymond Roche from France with the Honda, second place. Barry Sheene, a wonderful ride from Barry Sheene, tremendous charge, almost took him to second place. Fourth, Didier de Rodrigues. Fifth, Sergio Palandini. Sixth, Massimo Broccoli. But let's have a mention for poor old Ron Haslam, who fought his way through terrible conditions to go into second place and then lost it. A great win for